Are you listening? Damn.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Peak Podcast, a source of information, tools, tips, skills, lessons, stories, and mindset to help you reach your peak and beyond in fitness, relationships, your career, and so much more. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the podcast, episode 58 of the Peak Podcast. Marco back with you again. Today, I want to talk about training for your mindset. That is the title of this podcast. And what I want to talk about is the idea of how beneficial training is for your mindset long term, okay? Now, my story, going back to training, I started training because of depression, okay? So I started training because I was having feelings of depression. I knew I wasn't in a good spot, so I started training. And when you do that, that reason is mental, okay? So it wasn't, I'm not happy with my body and that's made me depressed. It wasn't like that. It was depression. It was a mindset thing. It was a mental thing. So I started training for purely the mind, really, to help me feel better. But that doesn't mean that training for purely physical purposes didn't come into it along the way. And especially when I got comments along the way, it made me feel good, right? It makes everyone feel good. So when we get those comments about how we're looking physically, it can shift our mindset, or it can make us focus purely on the physical, okay? And I've never, thinking about for this podcast, I've always wanted to at least stay lean, okay? So that's not necessarily a six-pack, but just lean, okay? So I never really wanted to get to a point where, the pant size was going up each year or anything like that. I just wanted to stay lean, stay healthy, okay? So that was always it. So the physical was never a massive driver for me, although along the way it has been somewhat of a driver. And the reason I've started with that story is because I actually think that's a story for a lot of people. That yes, they want to make physical change, but it's not a massive driver. Or it's not, at least, they want to make a physical change, but they're not necessarily concerned about getting a six-pack, okay? About getting ripped, about, getting really jacked, adding lots of muscle. For most people, that's not the case. And I think part of that is because they understand somewhat what is required to do that. And in the context of their life, it's not a commitment that they can make at that point in time, okay? So I think a lot of people understand that sure, they want to probably improve their body composition, but they're not looking to spend hours in the gym. That they don't necessarily want to do that strict diet required to get that look, okay? So what happens if you actually reach your physical goal? Say you want to be 12% body fat, just as a number, just as an example. Well, what happens when you reach that? Right? Obviously, you have to keep working to maintain that. And unless you're looking to really push on beyond that, you're probably not going to see that massive a change from that point forward, okay? So your day-to-day may become 12%, 14%, anything, 15%, anywhere around there. That might be your day-to-day, which is pretty lean, looking pretty good. And after a point in time, people aren't going to comment. People might say, oh, I remember, years ago when you looked like this, but the comments are going to dry up, right? And you're just going to get used to the way you look, which may be great, but you're just going to get used to it, okay? And all of a sudden, the physical drive, right, the drive to look a certain way is going to wear off. But yet you need to maintain it, okay? And this is why I think in the long term, training has as much of an effect on our mindset, maybe even more so, than on the physical, okay? Because at a certain point, you don't need to be training. We don't need to be in the gym training 5 days a week. All right, that's just not the case. A couple of times a week if you're doing some weights, 2-3 times. If you're doing the rest of the time, your day-to-day stuff, going for walks, riding the bike, just being active, just living life, you're probably going to maintain that pretty well. Eating a good diet, obviously, as well. But the training still has a massive benefit, and it goes towards our mindset, right? Long term, I believe that training will have a massive effect on your mindset. And let's be honest, if you're doing a 6-week challenge, it's probably not long enough to have an effect on your mindset, right? You're going to see physical changes first. So when you keep going, right, if you've achieved that goal and you keep training to maintain it, what benefits are you going to see? Physically, probably not a massive amount. You'll feel good. But then it comes back to that mindset. Consistency, right? Discipline, confidence, self-assured, right? Durable, tough, okay, resilient. All of these things are mindset. They are a mindset which has been shifted through consistent training, okay? It's got nothing to do with the physical as such. And when I say the physical in this podcast, I'm talking about how you look, okay? It's got everything to do with your mindset, right? It's got everything to do with how you feel, right? Your energy levels, all of these things. Nothing to do with having a six-pack, all right? The point I'm trying to make is that there's nothing wrong with training for the physical to look a certain way, okay? But if that is it, or if that is genuinely all you care about, I don't think it's going to be a strong enough driver for you. And it's probably not going to make your life better, okay? And people, you could take that to extreme and say, someone becomes a model, or, they earn money or something with it, and actually their life has got better. They get to see the world. But I mean, as in, you're not necessarily going to be happier, okay? The physical is important to a degree, but it's everything else that goes with it, okay? At a certain point, for a guy to go from 16% body fat to 12% body fat, is his life going to be that much better? Not really. To go from 12 to 8, is it going to be that much better? Not really. Okay, so the actual physical change at a certain point isn't going to do too much for you, right? You're not going to be a step change healthier. We're talking about maybe 1%, right? You might be 1% healthier and maybe even not. You might be actually bringing in problems. But the benefit to your mindset, that is going to be where the changes happen. And if you can keep training for a long time, this is why we need to stay consistent, then that is where the benefit will come, right? To your mindset, strong mindset, being resilient, being disciplined, okay? So if you're thinking about training, remember, it's not only to lose weight, it's also so you feel better, right? So you're more confident, right? I think that's it. I think I'll leave it there. If you enjoyed the podcast, episode 58, if you enjoyed it, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, it's called now. Drop a 5-star review. I would appreciate that. Drop a comment. I would appreciate that. If you didn't enjoy it, that's cool too. Tell me how I can improve. Let me know. All feedback is welcome. I think that's it. Let's leave it there. Another one in the can. Episode 58. Done and done.